Someone is wiping their ass. Hang on.
Howie. He's gonna wipe her ass with her face if you don't watch it. Wiping my ass with yogurt.
There she is.
All right. You're gonna give her your seat anyways. The show on the road.
All right.
RZ.
Why don't you just hail her?
All right. I'd like to present the first reader, a modern day pirate, comedian, definitely a joker.
Ooh.
Has run with movie stars, monkeys, monsters, and Manson even, and not Marilyn. He's going to read a tiny little portion of his horrible, horrible existence for you here. Jonathan Shaw.
Hi, I'm Jonathan. I'm going to read something from, for those of you who haven't read my book, Narcisa, Our Lady of Ashes. It's basically a story about a middle-aged gypsy in Brazil who gets involved with a teenage crack whore, and mayhem ensues. Right, this chapter here is like, they've been running together, and she's been swearing that she's going to stop smoking crack and be cured forever by a trip to the country. So he's just been kind of waiting for that, big day. And so here it is. The big day finally came. She'd stumbled in the day before, more dead than alive, at the end of her latest 5-day run. Then she dropped like a cadaver onto the sofa after informing me that we would be leaving for the country as soon as she woke up. Aside from the odd nightmare, she didn't move for the next 18 hours. The only way I could even tell she was alive was when she occasionally cried out in her sleep, whimpering in childlike terror, her ghostly, emaciated white carcass contorting in heartbreaking fits and spasms of delirium. For the most part of the next day, though, she was a corpse. I even checked her pulse periodically, fearing she'd finally given up the ghost and slipped away like a sneaky kid in her sleep. No such luck. Narcisa lived. Finally, she awoke in a fury of jerky, spastic movements, all pointy elbows and knees, sharp, fiery insults and complaints, as if she was pissed for having survived to face another hellish day on Earth, especially without any crack to ease the way through its grim, mundane morning routines, like eating. Pushing past me, she tore through my kitchen like a prison riot, banging drawers, slamming cupboards, silverware clattering, skittering across the floor, plates and glasses breaking, shattering, crashing as she ripped her way like a maddened baboon through the whole agonizing feeding process. Finally, she emerged with a plate overflowing with cold pizza, chocolate cookies, cheese, olives, and the usual sticky goo of sugary dulce de leche topping off her daily mess. She plopped down on my sofa like an overstuffed bag of garbage, began tearing through the food. Crumbs were flying as she talked a non-stop stream of incoherent shit. Olive pits scattering to the four winds of hell. Even the roaches on the wall seemed to back off to give her plenty of space. "You're gonna fucking die if you eat all that shit together, baby," I pleaded. "Menos! You're gonna die, you don't shut the fuck up, cigano. Go down the boteco and get me the Coca-Cola. Anda logo, vai. Go." I knew better than to argue with Narcisa when she was recovering from a mission. I moved towards the door. "And get me the packet cigar too. The good one, you cheap gypsy shit," she shouted behind me, blowing huge scraps across the room like a witch's curse, even as she shoveled more gobs of food into her demented little face. I had my hand on the doorknob. She said. What? Was it Portuguese or some weird new favela hooker slang I'd never heard before? You always had to wonder with Narcisa. I looked at her, a standing question mark, Swallowing a mouthful of food with petulant determination, she looked at me like I was an imbecile. The matches, you stupid shit! Matches! Matches! You have got deaf now? Retard like a stupid old man, hey? Porra, retardado, imbecil, idiota! I beat it out the door as she sat there eating, glaring at me all pissed off and shouting, rolling her eyes like lemons in a broken slot machine. When I got back, there she was, passed out again, face up on the sofa, snoring. Her mouth hung open like a gaping grave. Her big, dirty, bare feet pointing toward the ceiling like a pair of crooked tombstones. I stood over her, holding the sweaty Coke bottle like a wilted bouquet, feeling a bit like a jilted, love-struck farm boy standing there, a survivor in a tornado's wake, surviving the damage. Pizza crust and candy wrappers, ashes, cigarette butts littering the floor of the sofa. At least the plate was still intact, a small miracle in itself. And she was still alive too. There was hope. I cracked open that big blue book called Alcoholics Anonymous and read for many hours, spellbound. The book seemed to be all about Narcisa and me. Finally, I fell asleep. 24 hours later, she came to. While I was finally sleeping, of course. Groggy at first, soon the orders were flying at me across the room like squawking birds of prey. I tried to sleep on, covering my head with the pillow. It was no use. Like a foot soldier booted out of his bunk with angry shouts and orders, I was up on my feet running before I was even awake. Stop it, Lydia. Lydia wrote the introduction to this disaster. Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Back and forth to the refrigerator and kitchen cabinets like an overworked short-order cook in the Devil's Diner. The feeding frenzy was on again. She finished the last of my food while sitting on the toilet with the bathroom door open, crackling. Today's the day, Princesa, I said, beaming cheerfully despite my exhaustion. I threw open the long-shuttered windows to a spectacular sunrise, suddenly grinning at the idea of our long-awaited trip to the country, the beginning of a new life for us. Bah! She snapped. Shut the fuck up, go! Stupid shit! Close this fucking door and get the fuck out of here, go! I'm trying to defecate! Get out, go! I slunk away like a wounded old mutt and started clearing the table and the sofa of her latest wreckage. I crept back into the ravaged kitchen and got busy with the tortured battlefield there. Death and devastation, many casualties. Soon the infernal, maddening idiot chatter of the TV filled my beleaguered ears. I looked back into the darkened room. She'd pulled the shutters tight again and was sitting there like a dummy, hypnotized before the giant, glowing idiot eyeball, zoned out, totally absorbed in a surreal, hellscape vision of moronic children's programming. Animated teddy bears with screeching rat-like voices, squeaking stupid lunatic phrases. People dressed as clowns, farmers, witches, and goons, all running around squeaking like deranged rodents and butchered pigs. Sweet bleeding Jesus, what the fuck is this shit? I watched on in horror as what looked like a giant cockroach pranced into the center stage. All the other repulsive creatures made a circle around the wretched thing and began singing, squealing, infuriating, high-pitched